Researcher notes. Welcome to the channel, Research Diary. Here we will share the most amazing and inexplicable stories that happen to ordinary people, but at the same time went beyond the usual understanding of reality. We will share with you the most mysterious and inexplicable stories that change the way we see the world. Each story is unique and filled with an atmosphere of mystery. We will try to explore each story by analyzing details and looking at possible explanations. Exploring the Matrix failure. Stories about events that happen to people but are not supposed to happen in the real world. For example, when people see themselves in situations they have already experienced but with some changes.
Here is a story that happened to me. One day, my granddaughter and I were riding a shuttle bus from Taganrog to Rostov. Suddenly, looking out the window, I noticed a green-colored plane with a bright red star hovering low over the ground. From the looks of it, it was old, probably from World War II. The airplane did not move, but seemed to hover in place, as if floating in the air. The reaction of the other passengers was surprising. No one showed any interest. Some did not even bother to look in the direction of the airplane. Those who did notice it remained silent. I had the feeling that I was the only one who was surprised and delighted by what I saw. It is fascinating to hear your stories. I want to share mine, which is connected with the events of long ago. I have always been very sensitive to various energies. At that time, I lived in Kyrgyzstan, in the city of Frunze. After the death of my mother, who was a high-class chef during her lifetime, she often came to me in dreams. Once in a dream, she asked me to bake tortillas. It was surprising, because during her lifetime, she had never been involved in making flatbread, preferring Russian cuisine. I myself was not an experienced hostess at that time, all the more so when it came to yeast dough. When I woke up, I didn't know what to do. I shared my worries with my neighbor, and she suggested that I ask my mother for the recipe if she appeared in my dream again. That's exactly what I did. The next night, I asked my mom the question, and she told me the proportions of the ingredients in detail. The amazing thing was that in the morning, I remembered the whole recipe clearly, and when I started kneading the dough, I felt as if someone was controlling my hands. As a result, the tortillas turned out perfectly, especially since I had never baked them before. On the advice of a neighbor, I distributed the scones to the children, but the recipe soon faded from my memory. Later, I dreamed of my mother again, but this time, she was happy and grateful. May goodness be with everyone. I want to share my story. For a long time, I wanted to buy a jewelry set consisting of earrings, a ring, and a pendant, and finally decided to buy it. Since I am always worried that I might lose something, I used to check the earrings and pay special attention to the lock. I choose jewelry with such locks that can be opened only with two hands. The new earrings were exactly like that. One day, I went for a walk with my son, having previously checked that both pieces of jewelry were in place. Returning home, I suddenly realized that one earring was missing. I asked my son when I went with one earring, but he said he hadn't noticed. However, both seemed to have been in place the whole time. There was nothing left to do but search the car, but the earring was still missing. I decided it wasn't the end of the world and would wear the remaining ring and pendant. A month went by. On Saturday, as usual, I did my cleaning. Picking up the trash can standing in the corner, I noticed my lost earring underneath it. The lock was closed. The jewelry was blackened and icy. Summer camp near Orenburg, 1978. The air was filled with the sounds of nature, but occasionally the idyll was disturbed by the noise of airplanes flying over the camp. The airport was not far away, and planes, descending for landing, were often right above us. One day, I heard a distinctive rumble and looked up. Above me was a Tuesday -134 passenger plane. that was slowly descending, making a smooth turn. At first, everything seemed normal, but the longer I watched, the stronger the feeling of unease became. The plane continued to move, but its speed was too slow, and suddenly it froze in place, as if suspended in midair. The first thought that flashed through my mind was that the plane was about to start falling. It was low enough that I could see it in great detail. The plane wasn't falling, but it wasn't going forward either. There was a strange vibration inside me, mixed with anxiety. As I looked around, I noticed a boy I knew only slightly. Determined to share what I saw, I turned to him. "Do you see it?" I asked, pointing to the airplane. "I see it," the boy replied calmly. "Well," I added impatiently. "Why?" he replied indifferently. I was struck by this. The boy didn't seem to care what was going on. I insisted. "You see, the airplane is hovering in one place, neither falling nor flying." He again answered nonchalantly. "I see it. So what?" His calmness made me even more anxious. The airplane remained stationary, and the anxiety did not leave. I tried to distract myself, but every time I looked up, I noticed that the plane was still there, hovering in the sky. Time dragged on endlessly, and the strange buzzing feeling of unease would not go away. It lasted for quite a while, until something distracted me enough that I forgot for a moment what was happening. When I remembered, I looked up again hopefully, and was greatly relieved to see a clear blue sky. Strangely, I had no desire to tell anyone about this event. Something inside told me it was better to keep it to myself. So I didn't tell anyone. Listening to you and in my memory, many moments from the past came to mind that I want to share. Perhaps someone will find it useful or interesting. I started writing down everything I remembered and suddenly realized that I had a whole series of stories. The first item I noted was titled Block of Ice, where the first letter, Gu, looked like a hastily drawn number 1. Next came 27 on time, where the number 2 was already obvious. The third entry was Zinaida Andreevna, where the letter Z resembled the numeral 3. The fourth entry was fourth name. That's how the spontaneously numbered list came to be. But as soon as I noticed it, the law of meanness intervened, and then such coincidence of numbers and letters was not observed again. Moreover, I even forgot what I meant by 4 names. However, I remember the other 3 episodes perfectly well, and here they are. 1. The Block of Ice. My wife and I were walking down the street one day, and up ahead was a stadium with huge chunks of ice hanging down. Never in our lives had we walked under a roof, but that time we were too lazy to go around. Although neither my wife nor I had any cause for concern, we kept walking. Suddenly, we both stopped like dumbstruck and couldn't budge. We stood as if frozen, and right in front of us, at a distance of about 10 centimeters, after a couple of moments that seemed endless, fell a huge ice floe, about 3 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. Thank God that everything turned out safely. 2. 27 on time. Every time I had doubts, the number 27 appeared in front of my eyes, as if telling me that everything was going according to plan. It brought me calmness and confidence, like an invisible blessing for any action. After that, I acted confidently without doubting the correctness of my decisions. 3. Zinaida Andreevna. We had a neighbor named Zinaida Andreevna. One day I met her, and we had a great conversation, although we had never talked before, only on business. A couple of days later, I found out that she had passed away 4 days ago, although I remembered exactly that I had talked to her only 2 or 3 days ago. Everyone thought I was wrong, but I was sure I was right. Later, I noticed that I often confronted people the night before they left, as if I were seeing them off. For example, at school I often argued with one boy, but one day, we met and laughed about our past quarrels. He offered to come over to visit him the next day. But when I called, I was informed that he had fallen off the balcony. Later, he appeared in my dream, where his face was distorted like a Picasso painting, and he had turned into a dog that was playing with the other dogs in the yard. He told me not to worry, for he was even better off here than on Earth. Indeed, he had many difficulties in real life, but here he was free and happy. This story is full of mysterious events that are difficult to explain in terms of ordinary logic. One day, after returning from work, I went into the bathroom to wash my hands. I noticed a large puddle on the floor, but where it came from was completely unclear. The ceiling was dry, and there was no sign of water under the tub either. The puddle looked like normal water. It didn't have any odor. I decided to change my clothes and clean up the water. When I returned to the bathroom 2 minutes later, the puddle was gone. A chill ran down my spine, and I texted my brother, letting him know that something strange was going on. 5 years later, something inexplicable happened again in the new apartment. I had sheets of positive affirmations hanging in the room with my clothes closet. They hung there for months until one evening I noticed that they had brown stains on them that looked like tea marks. I live alone, and no one has access to the apartment. In the room with the closet, the ceiling was also dry. Where the stains came from was a mystery. This case happened about 3 years ago when our family was moving to a new apartment. The move was a complicated affair, requiring moving things and settling into the new dwelling. Due to fatigue, we were only able to set up our bed in the bedroom and left the rest of the furniture in the great room. The children's room was left empty that evening. Tired, my wife and I and our youngest child went to sleep on our bed in the bedroom. At about 2 a.m., I needed to go to the bathroom. Half asleep, I decided to go to the kitchen for a drink of water without turning on the light. The apartment was quiet, except for the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Suddenly, I heard the voice of a small boy calling me, clearly frightened by the darkness. The voice was calling, but not loud. "Daddy, Daddy!" I thought it was our son Fyodor waking up and, noticing I wasn't around, calling out to me. I went back to the bedroom where everyone was sound asleep. I then made my way to the children's room where the voice was coming from. The door was closed, so I opened it. I had no signs of fear. Entering the room, I saw that it was empty. Returning to the bedroom, I made sure everyone continued to sleep sweetly. Reflecting later on this incident, I remembered that a boy, the older brother's son, a little older than Fyodor, used to sleep in this room. I do not exclude the possibility that this was the spirit of the previous owner, whose energy could remain in our dwelling. I also wanted to share my story of matrix shift. I live in the north of Crimea. There are steppes. In the fall and spring, I go mushrooming. Once, I was walking along the steppe looking for mushrooms with my eyes, alone with my thoughts. And with a side glance, I saw not far from me walking. In general, I saw myself about 20 years ago. The same jacket, scarf, glasses that I had then. I froze. In my head, I was thinking, maybe I should approach him. I didn't make up my mind. Then the fog descended, and it was gone. I agonized for a long time, remembering if I'd seen my present self. That's the story that happened to me. I told my relatives. They were all surprised. It was mystical. Thank you.